Ever feel like you're just drowning in research?
Oh, yeah.
You're not alone. We are absolutely bombarded with information these days.
Yeah.
But making sense of it all, ugh, that's the real challenge. So, today's deep dive is all about a potential lifeline.
Okay.
NotebookLM, Google's experimental AI-powered notebook. Now I know what you're thinking.
Another AI tool.
Another AI tool, right. But trust me, this one's different. Just imagine having an AI assistant that doesn't just organize your research papers, but actually reads, analyzes, and summarizes them for you.
It's like having a superpowered research partner who can just like digest mountains of information and then pull out the gold nuggets.
Exactly. And that's what we're going to break down today, how it works and why it's causing such a stir in the research world. So let's start with the basics. What exactly is NotebookLM? And how is it different from, say, just having a really organized folder of PDFs?
Well, think of NotebookLM as a smart research workspace.
Okay.
It's not just storing your files, it's understanding them. You upload your PDFs, and NotebookLM uses AI to analyze the content, identify the key themes, and even extract important findings.
Okay, so it's doing the initial skim reading and highlighting for you, which is impressive. But what happens next? How do you actually interact with this analyzed information?
Well, that's where things get really interesting. NotebookLM doesn't just spit out a generic summary. It lets you ask very specific questions about your research material.
So if I'm researching like a specific theory, I can ask NotebookLM something like, what are the main arguments for and against this theory?
Exactly. And that's where this source-grounded part comes in. NotebookLM doesn't just give you a general answer. It pulls an answer directly from your papers and highlights the exact sentences or paragraphs that support it. It's like having a direct line to the evidence.
That's huge.
Yeah.
No more skimming through pages and pages trying to remember where you saw a specific point.
Exactly.
It's all right there, neatly linked back to the original source.
And it goes beyond just finding information, right? Remember how we were talking about information overload? NotebookLM tackles this by helping you see the connections within your research.
Okay, I'm intrigued. How does it DO that? Give me an example.
Let's say you are looking for some common themes across, I don't know, say a dozen different research papers on a particular topic.
Okay.
You can ask NotebookLM to identify those shared themes, and it will point them out. But not only that, it'll show you how they're discussed differently across all of your sources. And this is where those aha moments happen, the ones that can really push your research forward.
It's helping you connect those dots that might have been like buried in a mountain of information. And that is a game changer when you're trying to synthesize complex research.
What about working smarter, not harder, right?
Exactly. Now, all this talk about AI and research kind of reminds me of Tiago Forte and his second brain concept.
Yes.
He talks about building a system of knowledge. And it feels like NotebookLM really aligns with that idea, wouldn't you say?
Absolutely. Tiago emphasizes externalizing our thinking, creating a system that helps us not just store information, but actually use it effectively.
Right.
And that's precisely what NotebookLM enables. It's about moving beyond simply collecting information to actually engaging with it in a meaningful way.
So it's not just a tool for remembering, it's a tool for understanding.
Yes.
And that's where things get really exciting. But before we delve deeper into the features that make NotebookLM a potential game changer for researchers, we're going to take a quick break. When we come back, we'll explore how this AI-powered notebook can help you unlock even deeper insights from your research material. Exactly. And the next time you see something, some AI-generated something or other, don't just scroll past it. Don't just take it at face value. Stop for a second. Think about it. What's the thought process here? What's this thing trying to tell us?
You might be amazed by what you discover.
Welcome back. Before the break, we were diving into NotebookLM and its potential to, totally transform how we approach research. Now, you might be thinking, okay, this sounds helpful for finding specific facts or identifying themes, but can it really help me generate new ideas?
That's a great question, and it leads us to one of the most impressive aspects of NotebookLM. Its ability to generate a variety of research aids.
Okay.
Based on your uploaded material. We're talking about things like custom FAQs, study guides tailored to your research questions, even timelines from historical documents.
Okay, let's break that down a little. FAQs, I get how that would be useful for a business report or a website, but how does that apply to academic research?
Imagine, okay, so you've uploaded a dozen research papers on a complex theory. Now, instead of having to reread and summarize every single paper to pull out the key arguments, counterarguments, you can just ask NotebookLM to generate an FAQ document. What you get is a concise summary of the most important points of debate within your research material, all neatly organized, easy to digest. This can be incredibly helpful for just like quickly getting a handle on a new topic or prepping for a presentation or debate where you need to have those arguments at your fingertips.
That makes so much sense. It's like having NotebookLM create a cheat sheet of the most crucial information,
Right.
all sourced directly from your research.
Mhm.
No more like frantic highlighting or trying to remember where you saw that one important quote.
Exactly. And the beauty of it is it's not just regurgitating information, it's organizing it in a way that facilitates understanding and analysis.
So it's not just about finding the information, but making that information usable
Yes.
and insightful. And you mentioned study guides as well. I can see how those would be helpful for students, but could you give an example of how a researcher might use that feature?
Let's say you are about to dive into a new area of research within your field.
Okay.
You've gathered a stack of, those really important foundational papers, but you want to make sure that you're focusing on like the most relevant concepts, the connections.
Yeah.
With NotebookLM, you can actually ask it to create a study guide that highlights the key theories, the methodologies, the findings from those papers, essentially providing you with a roadmap for your own deep dive.
It's like having a personalized syllabus for your own research
Right.
journey. And you mentioned something about timelines earlier. That sounds incredibly useful for historical research, but how would that work in practice?
Imagine you're a historian researching a particular event or period.
Okay.
You've gathered primary source documents, letters, news articles, maybe even some digitized government records.
Right.
Instead of having to piece together a chronology of events from these very different sources, you can ask NotebookLM to generate a timeline. It'll analyze the dates, the people, the key events mentioned, and then create a visual representation of how everything unfolded. This can be incredibly powerful for spotting patterns, inconsistencies, and ultimately gaining a clearer understanding of the past.
That's amazing. It's like having NotebookLM do the tedious work of sifting through all the dates and the details
Right.
so you can focus on the bigger picture. Analysis. Now, speaking of bigger picture analysis, let's talk about the chat feature. This is where NotebookLM really seems to step into the realm of science fiction, wouldn't you say?
It's definitely one of the most innovative aspects of this whole technology. Remember how we were talking about how NotebookLM can answer specific questions based on your research?
Mm-hmm.
Well, the chat feature takes that to a whole new level.
Okay, walk me through it. I've got my NotebookLM open. I've uploaded my research papers. What do I do next?
With the chat feature, you can have a real back and forth with your research material. So instead of asking a single question, you can engage in a dialogue, refining your questions as you go and, drilling down into specific areas of interest.
So it's like having a conversation with a really, really smart research assistant
Yes,
who's read all the same papers as you.
precisely. Let's say you're writing a literature review on the effectiveness of a particular medical treatment.
Okay.
You could start by asking NotebookLM something super broad like, what are the main findings regarding the treatment efficacy?
Okay.
From there, you can narrow your focus based on its response. Maybe you're curious about a specific side effect that is mentioned across several studies. You can ask something like, tell me more about the incidence of this side effect in patients with pre-existing conditions.
Okay, that's starting to blow my mind a little bit. So I'm essentially able to have a conversation with my research material
Yeah.
in real time,
Yeah.
guided by NotebookLM's ability to connect the dots and surface relevant information. But how do I know that it's not just cherry picking information to fit my questions? How does it ensure accuracy, avoid bias?
That's where the source-grounded approach comes in again.
Okay.
Just like with the other features, every answer that NotebookLM provides in chat is directly linked to your source material. You'll see citations next to each point, allowing you to very easily verify the information and see the context for yourself.
Okay, that's reassuring. So I can follow the trail, so to speak,
Exactly.
and make sure that NotebookLM's answers are grounded in the actual research
Yeah.
and not just its interpretation.
It's about providing you with the tools to be efficient,
Right.
but also critical in your analysis.
This level of interaction with research material feels incredibly powerful, almost like having a co-pilot on your research journey.
It really is.
But before we get too carried away with all the possibilities, let's shift gears a moment and talk about the practicalities of using a tool like NotebookLM. We've covered a lot of ground today, from the very basics of what NotebookLM even is, to its potential to like totally revolutionize how we do research, how we analyze information, and even like generate new knowledge.
Yeah.
As we're wrapping up here, I'm curious to get your thoughts on kind of like the broader implications of tools like this. Are we like entering a new era of research, one where AI plays like a much more central role?
I think it's definitely a paradigm shift. I mean, for centuries, research has really been about the individual scholar, painstakingly gathering information, reading it, analyzing it. But now we're really on the cusp of having these AI partners that can augment our abilities. And it's pretty amazing. Imagine a future where researchers can bypass those hours of, like tedious reading and analysis and just dive right into the heart of their research questions.
It's like having a whole team of research assistants
Right.
working tirelessly behind the scenes.
Exactly.
But with that comes the responsibility to make sure that we're using these tools thoughtfully and ethically, right?
Absolutely. Just because we can use AI for research doesn't necessarily mean we should use it for everything. It's really important to be mindful of the potential pitfalls, like, over-reliance on these AI-generated insights.
Right.
Or the temptation to kind of treat these tools as a substitute for critical thinking.
Right. It's about striking that balance, right?
Yeah.
Using AI to enhance our abilities.
Yeah. Yes.
Not replace them.
Exactly. Think of it like a musician using like a digital audio workstation.
Okay.
It's a really powerful tool. It can enhance their creativity and their productivity, but it's not going to replace the musician's talent
Right.
or skill or their artistic vision.
That's a great analogy. So for our listeners who are like really excited about NotebookLM and these other AI research tools, what are some key takeaways that they should keep in mind?
First and foremost, just approach these tools with a healthy dose of curiosity,
Okay.
but also skepticism.
Okay.
Don't be afraid to, experiment, explore the capabilities,
Yeah.
but always be willing to question the results. Think critically about that information.
Don't just take their word for it.
Exactly. Second, remember that AI tools are only as good as the data that they're trained on.
Right.
So if you are working with data that is biased or incomplete, the results are going to reflect that.
Garbage in, garbage out. Right.
Yeah.
Like they say.
Exactly. And then finally, stay informed about the ethical considerations surrounding research.
Right.
This is a field that is constantly evolving, and it's crucial to kind of like stay up on the potential implications of these technologies as they develop.
Yeah, it's like we're all explorers kind of like charting new territory here. So there's a sense of excitement,
It's very exciting.
but there's also a need for caution, right?
Absolutely.
And awareness
Yeah.
as we kind of navigate this landscape.
Well said.
So as we wrap up this deep dive into the world of AI-powered research, we'll leave you with this. How are you going to use these tools to maybe ask some new questions, explore some new frontiers, and unlock new discoveries? Until next time, keep exploring, keep questioning, and keep learning.